Today we're going to do a bit more on addiction. If you've been abused or traumatised or had something terrible happen to you and now you're addicted and you're self-soothing, I suspect that you probably have a lot of anxiety and stress in your aura. These really bad experiences create a lot of stress and a lot of trauma and a lot of anxiety in the aura. And that feeling that you have, that you feel when you get anxious or you feel really stressed, and feel good, that feeling is one of the reasons why you will want to medicate, because you want the feeling to go away. Of course, you can use pharmaceuticals and different sorts of herbal concoctions to try and get rid of it, and that's a really good idea. But the trouble is that it often just masks it, it dumbs it down, it dulls it out, and then you can end up getting addicted to things again. Therefore, I'm doing this podcast because I think that you probably have a lot of anxiety and you have a lot of stress in your aura, and you should maybe just go there. And a lot of fear. You could also do some work on that as well. So the anxiety happened when the experiences were happening to you, when you were either being a victim or you were having something horrible happening around you, the trauma or the abuse, and you felt anxious. It made you feel really anxious and you feel really, really stressed because now you're in this foreign land and you've never been in this before and you're not coping, and you would also felt the trauma of it and traumatized by it. These emotions are the ones you want to work on. We've talked earlier, I think in one of my podcasts, talked about the trauma and the feelings that go with that and with the abuse. But you can actually go to particular feelings, and I want you to look at your anxiety and look at your stress. They're the two we talk about mostly today, your anxiety and your stress. Because as your anxiety goes up, your addiction goes up too. So you want to pull that back. And the way to get rid of that is to start working on releasing it. Because the anxiety is actually just trapped somewhere in your body. When it was happening, you got really anxious and you just sucked it all in and you just trapped it in your body, and now it's in your aura. And anything that triggers it sets it off, or you might just have it all the time. You might have just free, I call it free floating anxiety, where you don't feel safe anymore. You never feel safe, you never feel calm, you never feel grounded, and that's your anxiety. Stress has the same outcomes as well, that you will feel stressed and you get super stressed and you get overwhelmed and you start to feel maybe like anxiety that you're going to be sick. The body will always react. The body always remembers what happened, and that's like your early warning sign. For example, when you're little and you put your hand and you touch something hot and you burn yourself, your body remembers that, and then it keeps you away from putting your hand back on the stove because you remember that. And it's the same with any kind of trauma or abuse that you've suffered. You will remember that, and you won't want to go there because you don't want to go there. It's a safety mechanism. And if you land up having to go there, you want to medicate, and that's your addiction, and that's what will happen. I highly recommend doing tapping. I tapped out all of my anxiety I had around my abuse and the trauma. I tapped out all of the stress, and every time the stress comes, I go and tap it out again. You can also do your breath work where you breathe out all the anxiety, breathe out all the stress, your hypnosis, whatever modality works for you, talking to yourself and letting it go, asking your guides to help you let it go. You need to get your anxiety down. I also suggest if you can use some non-addictive things to help you to use that, the essences, burning stuff in the house, the different oils, also drinking certain teas like chamomile and valerian tea and St. John's wort. There's all these things we can do, but ultimately we really want to get rid of the actual anxiety, and that's what you want to do, is work at letting it go and letting go of the anxiety and letting go of the stress. Because then if you have less stress and less anxiety, you won't need to have your addiction. It's not your fault what happened. It happened to you. It was an external thing that happened to you, and now you've got an internal problem that you're walking around with it all the time. And that's why I want you to really start working on your anxiety and letting it go, and your stress and letting it go. The trauma one we've spoken about earlier, you do the same work with that. Because these are, anxiety is like emotion, and just like stress is like an emotion. You can have mental stress, psychological stress, emotional stress, and might want to tap particularly on those three. And then you can have the anxiety. These are not good feelings, and they make our life horrible. And that's why you also want to get rid of them, because the less anxiety and less stress you have, the less you'll have to look for medicating them, numbing them down. When you're starting to feel stressed and anxious, because you're always stressed and anxious on some low level, for example, you're probably 3 or 4 stressed and anxious on a good day, and on a bad day you're like 9. So what I'm trying to say to you, it's always there. So you want to start pulling it back and pulling it back and pulling it back and letting it go and letting it go and letting it go. Also doing some healing on yourself will work if you lie there and put your arms out so your hands are just facing your body and just release it from your body. You can do self-healing. You can also go to a healer, or anyone who does Reiki, and you can ask your guides to help you before you go to let go of your anxiety and your stress from your body. I think we get so used to walking around with it since all the events, the negative events, that we hardly know we've got it. I know I didn't realise how much anxiety I had. I was so used to walking around with it and carrying it with me like an extra piece of baggage that I didn't realise how much I had. And then when I started checking with the pendulum, I was like, whoa. Or I use the kinesiology to ask how much anxiety I have or stress, and I do the count till 10. I use it more than 10 being my highest. And then I work on it, and then I can see if it's going down. You will find your life is better when you have less of these two, and your need for soothing yourself will be less. You will feel more calm. You will feel, in a good way, safer, because the anxiety actually makes you feel unsafe. And a part of you knows you're being ridiculous, and you know you're being anxious, and you know it probably be all right, but all the rest of you is just reacting. And I actually think it's because the body's reacting. I think the stuff gets caught in the actual body and held in there, almost paralysed, like the PTSD. It's the same thing. And as soon as something triggers you, off you go, and it's almost like you can't help yourself. Do the work on trying to release it. Acknowledge it as well. Acknowledge that you're probably anxious all the time and you're always stressed all the time, even when life is going like really well. And that was the other thing, to understand that you probably wonder why other people cope better than you, like they can do everything and they don't seem anxious and they don't seem stressed. Well, it's probably because they didn't have a horrible experience happen to them. Now it's trapped in their body. So you just stop being hard on yourself. People have different lives, people have different experiences, and also the people have different damage. And you've got to understand that these things have damaged you, but you can actually fix yourself and you can actually get better. Go off, do the tapping, do the release work, do the meditation, do the hypnosis, all the things I keep telling you about. You'll probably write to me soon and tell me to be quiet, but I found all these things are the way to get rid of it, so that once you've got it out of the body, you don't have to medicate it. That's the difference. So off you go and do your work. I'm still doing it. On a bad day, I go back and do it all. So I've been doing it for years, and there's just, for me, there was loads of it. And don't think you're a failure because you have to go and do it again. Sometimes it'll be problematic because something will trigger it. So the less we have, the better it is, but you'll still have some things that will sort of trigger you, so don't be hard on yourself. So get rid of the anxiety and get rid of the stress, and in doing that, you'll actually start to recover from it all, and you will actually need less numbing devices to help you through the day. So I'm wishing you really well with this. These are two really horrible things to have, anxiety and stress. They're really awful, and it doesn't matter what you do or where you are, they're with you all the time, and they're really horrible, and people can't see it. It's like back pain, people can't see it, but it's happening all the time. So see if you can get rid of it, and then you can feel better. So I'm sending you lots of love and lots of healing and lots of light, and wishing you success in this. And if you want to, you can always let me know. I'm on YouTube and Spiritual and Energy Work with Wendy, and I'm on Facebook as well. Okay, bye-bye.